What's up, everybody? That time of the day, that time of the week, that time of the month.
Yes, it is.
Oh, you're listening to The Good,
The Band,
The Ugly. I'm Big Papa.
and I'm just Jeff.
Just plain old vanilla Jeff. Vanilla bean.
Yeah.
You are vanilla bean Jeff. Look at that. Took the song right out of there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like taking the fun out of confetti. I don't know.
The fun out of confetti.
Funfetti. How's that?
Funfetti.
No one said the shit I come up with is scripted.
At
all. It's never scripted.
It's never.
So, people don't realize this, but we had our last episode.
Yeah.
With Kathy Rankin and her project.
Yes.
With Kathy and Dave Ellefson and Joe Bronson and Ken Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And then it took a turn.
It did.
Ken wanted to stick around, talk some more.
Yep. And
we decided to split it up and make a whole episode out of it because I don't think people realized who Ken Mary is.
Exactly.
Ken has played with Flotsam and Jetsam.
Mm-hmm. Alice Cooper.
Played with Alice Cooper.
House of Lords. Great White.
Yep.
So, and the list goes on. Fifth Angel.
What happened to the other four?
I don't know. I'll have to ask him sometime.
Yeah. So we decided to make a whole other episode.
Yeah.
Because Ken was gracious enough to stick around for basically another hour.
Yeah. And it was fantastic.
Oh my God. We could have just kept talking. The stories he has.
Amazing.
Amazing stories.
Just grab the popcorn, sit down and watch.
Yeah, just watch and enjoy. So without further ado, we are just going to dissolve into
our conversation with Ken Mary.
Ken Mary, as in Merry Christmas.
Ooh.
See ya.
Later.
Fucking dicks.
Bunch of tools.
Whatever.
Back already.
We're back again.
It's almost like we never left.
That's right. We're gonna have split. I don't know how we're gonna do this, but
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, let's keep going. So Ken, you've got so many other things in project. So.
Kathy kind of spilled the beans a little bit before you logged on.
Oh, okay.
She said you've got a long list of people you've worked with, so give us a few.
Let's see. Alice Cooper and Pelletieri, Chastain, Great White, Flotsam and Jetsam, Fifth Angel, Don Dokken, Kip Winger, Gene Simmons, right. The Beach Boys, Jesse and the Rippers from Full House.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm probably leaving somebody out.
Did you do something with House of Lords?
Oh yeah, House of Lords. Yeah.
Sahara.
That little band.
Yep. Sahara. Can't Find My Way Home. It was only number 6 in Billboard. So
exactly.
Yeah. I know. I'm like sitting here. I know I'm missing somebody. Who am I missing? It's like
I love the remix the redo of that song you guys did, number 1. But
well, here's a funny story about that song. I could tell you a great story because that's where I learned as a producer that you didn't have to spend we were spending back in that day like $230,000 on that record, which in today's money would be probably like $750,000. So we had an Akai 12 track in our rehearsal studio, and so this that's how the singer and I and everybody else, we were basically recording on this little 12 track Akai, which had these weird like videotape looking tapes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And Can't Find My Way Home. I remember, when we recorded that, I was recording drums on this little Roland electronic drum kit. And that's actually, if you listen closely to the beginning of that song, the hi-hat on that is actually from our demo. But what happened was we went into the studio with Andy Johns, and I remember Gene Simmons from, he obviously from Kiss was the executive producer, and And he came in and we were recording it, and he goes, "Man, there was something magical on that demo. He was talking to the singer, James, and he
Yes.
was like, your voice it just sounded like it was almost going to blow out, but it didn't. And there was, something so magical there. And so we tried and we tried, we re-recorded everything, and for some reason we just could not capture the magic that we had on that demo. So what we ended up doing was taking the 12-track Akai, dumping it to a 32-track digital machine, redoing the drums and the bass, and mixing it. Everything on that song, the guitars, the keyboards, the vocals, the acoustic guitar, even the hi-hat playing with the acoustic guitar at the top is me hitting a Roland pad. It's not actually really a hi-hat. So
That's
if you
crazy.
listen to that song
Yeah.
and you listen to it carefully with engineer ears, you'll hear a little bit more hiss and noise on that song than all the other songs on the record, because that was the only one we actually pulled from the demo. And I remember Gene Simmons walking into the control room when we played the song, and he was like, "Man, you did it. You got that, raspy thing in your voice, that thing which it just sounded like it was going to blow out." He recognized it immediately, which I respect Gene for, because he caught that. He was like, "Wow, it's that same thing." And we had to tell him, "Yeah, we actually took the tape and bounced it down." And that was our biggest single, actually, which is ironic, but that's where I learned that you could actually, it was all about the song. And one thing I will tell you about the song too, when it's right, it, because even on that demo, like the hairs on our arms would stand up when we're listening to that thing back. Like we knew we captured something on there. There was something magical, and we knew it.
We call that the Marco Mendoza moment.
We do.
Marco always says, "Look, the hairs on my arm. Look."
Yeah.
That if you have that happening, then something happened.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because I loved that entire album. I thought that whole album was great.
To be honest with you, it is one of my favorite albums that I was involved with, as a co-producer, writer.
Yep.
And I actually think I had more publishing on that album than anybody else in the band.
Oh, wow.
I had a lot of publishing on that album, and it's something I'm very proud of. I'm very proud of that record. It's something I look back on, and I just wish that, that time period was such a special time period too. Yeah. But that song actually, it's actually a Steve Winwood song.
Yes.
And the weird thing is that as I'm getting older, that song means more to me than it did when we recorded it. Like
Sure.
When you go "Can't Find My Way Home," now it means something so much deeper. A time that's gone, or people that are gone, or an era that's gone. Things that you can't get back to. Yeah. And that song is really moving me more today than it ever did when we were playing it live and recording it.
Yeah, that's just, top to bottom, it's a great album. I don't know if you've ever heard the whole thing or not, but
I never heard the whole thing, but I'm just joking. I do that in interviews all the time. Like, people are like, "Well, what's Alice Cooper like?" I was like, "I don't know. I never actually met him." Like, "Well, you were on tour with him for 3 years. You never met him?" No, it was really weird. We never actually. We just went on stage.
Because you played with, in Alice's band, I think it was Kane Roberts and
Yep.
Yeah.
And Kane Roberts just texted me while we were on the previous interview. So,
oh, no kidding.
I talked to Kane. I talk to Kane like all the time. We're actually involved in a lot of other business. Like, we're working on an animated movie together, and he's actually directing it, and I'm doing like music and managing some of the animatics teams. So we actually are doing a lot of work in conjunction with each other that actually does have a lot to do with music. So it's awesome. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
So you're saying we'll have Kane Roberts on the show. You can help let that happen.
Well, I'm gonna verbally commit him to be on the show, and
good verbal contract again.
Verbal contract. I'd hate to have to say
verbal contract. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of those in New York in general.
Oh, do you?
A big guy by the name of Louis the Lug. Yeah, he's our lawyer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you guys out of New York? What part of New York are you in?
Syracuse.
Yeah.
Wow. I think the bass player for Flotsam and Jetsam lives near you guys.
Yes, he lives in Skinny Atlas. Jason.
Yes.
No, it's
not
Bill
Jason?
Bodley. Bill Bodley.
Who are you thinking?
I was thinking of, well, he
You
was,
thinking of Jason Newsted from like 100 years ago?
yes, that's why.
Yeah, he's not in the band anymore. I don't know if you know that, but he's been
No,
out of the band for like 40 some years. No, I'm
Yeah,
just
once
kidding.
he took,
Probably like
once
38
he took
years
the,
or something like that.
once he took the Metallica job, it was over.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's kind of one of those gigs you might want to hang on to, like the Metallica gig.
Eh,
Yeah,
maybe.
those hacks. Maybe in a couple of years when they get their sea legs, they may come out with something worth a shit. But
Yeah, we'll see.
how quick did that
Turn
show-
around.
Yeah, no. How quick did that Metallica thing sell out here for what? For the dome?
For the dome.
It's like
yeah,
17 minutes.
17 minutes or something.
30,000.
Yeah.
Bastards.
The unfortunate part, that's but whatever.
We're
Well,
happy
you know,
we get 100.
women want to be, what is the joke? Women want to be with them, men want to be them, or something
Yes,
like
no,
that.
you're right.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what it is, but
Who knows? Some men might want to be with him.
Or men want to be that.
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, we're
Whatever
not
it
being,
is.
whatever it is. Whatever
But
the
anyway.
saying is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably now a politically incorrect statement. So
That's right. That's right.
So actually scratch that from
Scratch
the
that.
record.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That never happened.
Never happened.
Do you find that with technology, be on the producing side of it,
Yes.
can you reflect on how different our lives would be if we had this shit when we were younger?
Right.
Well, I think it's hard to say. I mean, I think the technology to me has only been like a negative almost. Like if I look over my career, it's actually just damaged me personally. Like before Beat Detective and Pro Tools, I was in demand as a session player because I was able to play to a click, ahead of the click, behind the click, on the click. It's something that I really practiced growing up. I always wanted to be a session drummer. And so I've worked with some of the greatest producers in the world, guys like Andy Johns, he produced a couple of small bands like Led Zeppelin and Van Halen, and Mick Gazowski, some small artists like Christina Aguilera, Mariah Carey. I want to say Nine Inch Nails, but it was somebody else. Michael Wagner, Ozzy Osbourne. Like I was there for the mix down of the No More Tears album. I used to.
cool.
Michael was a good friend of mine, or still is a good friend of mine, and he used to have me come in if I wanted to, go check something out or watch him mix, and so that was a fantastic experience. So I got to work with all of these amazing Mac. A guy that did a small band called Queen, and Terry Brown, who did a little band we all know called Rush.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm just saying some of the producers that I've had a chance to work with. I'm not even listing all of them. And so I was really blessed in that time period to have worked with all these amazing talents. But when Pro Tools and Beat Detective came out, that sort of, now all of a sudden with technology, you can take a drummer that's maybe not so solid and maybe not so good, and you can make them sound, amazing. I've had some drummers in my studio where they've been playing for 3 or 4 years, and by the time I'm done tweaking the drum parts, they sound incredible.
Right. Wow. Who just said the same thing?
Mike.
Yeah, we had Mike Metal Goldberg on, and he he said almost the exact same thing.
Because Mike was he was a drummer.
He was a drummer as well. Yeah.
And do you find yourself being a little hard on the drummer because when you're sitting there going, I'm going to make this guy sound great.
Yeah.
But then when he goes to try to replicate this live, he's not going to be able to do this.
Well, here's what I found in the studio, and as a producer, I mean, one time I had this band in, and the singer had this amazing tone, like he could sing. The voice just sounded amazing, but he had terrible time, and he had terrible pitch. His timing was horrible. His pitch was terrible. So he sounded pretty horrible overall, but his tone was killer and his emotional delivery was killer. And I tell you what, by the time I was finished with the guy, he sounded like $1 billion singer. I mean, he sounded like he was, I hate to use Nickelback as an example, but he was at that level of singer where you just go, wow, this guy's got an amazing voice. And here's the weird end to that story is live. He was obviously very rough before that record. We did the record, and then I went to see him live, and he was really like 70% better. And I think it was because he could hear what he was supposed to sound like
Mhm.
and what it was when it was correct. And I really do think that that actually influenced him, and he became a much better singer because of his studio experience. And I think the same thing can happen with drummers too.
Yeah.
I've had some drummers in where, yeah, like you said, you know that when somebody sees them live, they're going to go like, "Hey, what happened to this guy? This is not the way he sounds on the record." But most of the time, I've seen the musicians kind of step into where you took their performances to,
Mhm.
and that's a really gratifying thing when you know that, hey, the studio experience and what we did really kind of elevated this band and these musicians.
Being a singer, I find that when we're doing a cover, you have what's been polished up by the production and the engineering and everything,
Sure.
and you're emulating that. So you're
Yes.
so if somebody did his studio session with you, you told them how you wanted to. If they wrote that song, they may have heard it differently in their head than they thought it should be, and now you've corrected it, and they're saying, "Oh,
So
that's
yeah.
yeah, that's how the song should be. We just recorded it, so maybe that's why somebody gets
Well,
better
and
at
even
their own
hearing the
song."
pitch correctly, like in this particular singer's case, he laughed one time. He goes, "Dude, I don't even know how you got that out of that song. I didn't hit one of those notes." Like he knew that
Right.
he was really off. But the weird thing is when he could hear it corrected, and that's the way he was able to practice, he became a much, much better singer. So I think studio experience, this is where you get good, the studio, when you're a singer or you're a guitar player or you're a vocalist. People always say, well, what's the difference between like a studio player and a live player? Well, live, you can get away with, like, if you think of it like a closed window, live, you can get away with like this. In the studio, you can get away with like that. You
Yes.
don't get away with much in the studio. Everything has to be very pristine.
Mhm.
And in the old days, I did a ton of records where there was no beat detective. It was 2-inch tape, and you might get lucky enough to punch in. Like they might punch you in, but
Yeah.
you couldn't punch out. It's like a
Right.
Roach Motel. You check in, you can't check out. It's like you can punch in, but you can't punch out. So you might be able to do a punch in, and that's it. I mean, that was the extent of your control. And as a drummer, with a guitar, you could punch in every 8 bars or 10 bars or whatever. As a drummer, you might be able to punch in once in a song. So you had to actually really play back in the day. And that's definitely a different thing. I think it has, to some degree, crippled musicians. Like, I think the level of musicianship back in the day, especially the later 80s, I mean, the players, were pretty amazing back then. You can
Yeah.
listen to almost any major album and just go. I walked into a session at Amigo Studios in Los Angeles, and Jeff Porcaro had been in the session right before me. Or excuse me, was it Jeff Porcaro? I think it was. And I heard the drum track, and it was, you got to remember, again, no technology to fix it, and every beat was super solid. The groove was incredible. And that's what you want. You want that to happen without having to do it with technology.
Yeah. That's why those drummers have that mystique about them.
Yeah.
They're old school drummers, and they're not relying on technology. You got
Right.
guys like Jason,
Yeah.
like Mike Portnoy. I mean, you've got these drummers that are just solid old school drummers compared to some of the new stuff that's coming out. And you're just like, you could put any studio drummer to do some of the stuff that's coming out now versus putting pen to paper type, the guys that just
Sure.
feel, you know, um,
Well, yeah, I mean, now you have options. And the one thing I will say also is that from the production side, as a producer, I always, back in the day, I did have to fire drummers, and I worked with Andy Johns, and, Andy Johns was famous for firing drummers because I think he
Yeah.
fired Kazi Powell one time. I mean, there's
Yeah.
major, major guys that he fired, and he would sit behind the console and he would kind of use his arm, and he'd go, duh, duh, he knew where he wanted that snare drum to fall, and a lot of drummers thought he was like out of his mind or something, but
Mhm.
I totally knew what he was talking about. Like
Sure.
he wanted to hear a certain thing that he was kind of used to hearing with Bonham, and if you could do that, you're in the club, and if you couldn't, you were fired. And fortunately for me, I could do that. And when we finished Can't Find My Way Home, actually, this is another Can't Find My Way Home story.
Sure.
But he was, I think he was like 6'3" or 6'4". I mean, it's just a huge hulking guy, and he had this English accent, and he grabbed me in a headlock, and he's, breathing on me. He's like, "You and Bonham, man, you and Bonham," with his English accent. And I was like, whoa, like for me, Bonham was one of my influences. So I was just like, wow, because I would always be quizzing him, what was Led Zeppelin like in the studio? What was Robert Plant like to record? And he was like, he's very, very fast. He would just get in, do his parts, and get out.
Right.
And the whole band, he said, was just they were very quick. They were very efficient. They had done a ton of records. I think he recorded, I think I might have been 3 and 4, certainly number 4. And he told me a funny story. You guys will appreciate this. And I know that, I mean, people on the show probably are interested more in stuff like this, but Andy Johns, when he finished recording Led Zeppelin 4, Stairway to Heaven, Rock and Roll,
Yeah.
Misty Mountain Hop, Black Dog.
Right.
I mean, these are like some of the most famous Led Zeppelin songs ever.
Yeah.
He flew to the mastering session in New York City and brought the master tapes on the plane. He got drunk on the plane and walked off the plane without the half-inch masters. Now, check this out. This is 1970, I want to say 72. I could be wrong. So maybe it's 74. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, he goes back to the airline and then they call the plane back to get the tape off the plane.
Wow.
Like, would that happen now? There's no way that happens now. And he goes, and here's the thing, all they had left in England was the 1/4-inch master. Like, they made a safety master from the mixes, and it would have been a 1/4-inch tape, which would not sound, I mean, it would sound okay. It wouldn't sound nearly like as good as the half-inch analog. So that almost happened to, like, Led Zeppelin 4 might have been a slightly different record than what we have now.
That's funny.
And you heard it here.
Yeah, you heard it
You
right.
heard it here on this show. Yeah.
That's right. The good, the band, and the holy shit. What just happened? That's
Yeah.
Yeah, that would not have happened today. They've been like, yeah, tough shit.
Yeah, they would have been like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, he probably wouldn't have gotten back through TSA for one. Be like,
Right.
Yeah, you left the area. Sorry, you don't have a boarding pass. See ya.
Meanwhile, some stewardess is uploading them to something and making millions of dollars off it now. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
Who was your oh shit moment though? I mean, like when you just knew, obviously you've played with some of the greatest people out there, but what was the first time that you just knew that you were where you were supposed to be and you couldn't believe?
Well, for sure, I toured with a guy named Randy Hansen, who did a Hendrix tribute, and it still is actually out there touring and doing better than ever. By the way, he tours in Europe all the time. But I was playing the Whiskey a Go-Go with Randy when some people that had been working with Alice's management came down, and they saw me and they were like, "Hey, we'd like you to come down and audition." And I was very young at the time, and it was like a $350 flight because I was living up in Seattle. And I decided to do that. But my oh crap moment, I'd say, was, I ended up, there was 3 days of auditions. I was on day number 2. And I remember when I auditioned, actually Kip Winger was in the audition and Kane Roberts was in the audition. And I'm trying to remember who else. I think Randy Piper was there. He was originally,
oh my God,
he was the Wasp guitar player.
Yeah.
He was actually at the audition. And I'm not sure if I don't remember Alice being there, but I remember Kane looking at me and going, "Dude, I just I can't imagine anybody is going to come in here with that kind of, skill, but we still have another day. So I can't say it, but I'd like to say it. I think, I really think you got the gig." And so, a couple of days later, I got a phone call and it was like, "Hey, dude, you have the gig." And then, and think of how weird this is. The biggest place I played before then was probably like 3,000 seats. It was the Paramount Theater up in Seattle. And I played there a number of times. I played there with Randy, and it was a great experience. It's a beautiful theater, but it's about 3,000, and it's a good size. But my fifth show with Alice was sold out. 2 nights, Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, live broadcast on. So that's 22,000 people.
I
And
saw
then
that.
broadcast live on MTV, which was an estimated 20 million people on Halloween. So
I was
talk
one of the
about
20
like
million.
your head spinning. I mean,
Right.
and I was so ready for it because I had been envisioning this since I was a kid. I had been envisioning playing Coliseums, and it was just like, I am now here. I'm now here where I'm supposed to be. So that was my first moment where I went like, okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I saw that actually. I
Yeah.
was one of
Wow.
I was one of the 20 million.
Why would you call me Ashley? I don't.
Who knows?
I'm just kidding. I'm just
Yeah, I
kidding.
know.
Wow. Actually, when somebody says, "Yeah, I saw that," Ashley. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm trying to inject
No,
some
you're
humor in
good.
here.
No, you're good.
What was it? What was the movie?
Sorry, I take it back.
Airplane. Was it
Oh, Shirley.
Shirley? You
Stop
keep-
calling me Shirley. Shirley, you
Yeah.
must be joking.
Yeah, I'm not
We're
joking.
headed
Stop
straight
calling me-
towards the sun. What's that?
Right.
It's a big fiery ball at the center of our solar system, but that's not important right now.
Right.
Yep.
The dinosaurs grew too big and fat, and they died and became oil.
Oh.
Yeah. It's funny that we've had a lot of people that have been on that have either their goal was to meet Alice Cooper,
Yeah.
or to play with
Or
Alice.
play with them.
But Alice Cooper was one of those iconic, just bigger than life people that I mean, Pete Merluzzi was telling us, and he's doing stuff with all kinds of, with Rat and all the other stuff, or with Guns N' Roses and everything. And he's like, but my biggest moment is like meeting Alice.
Alice.
Yeah, and Alice
Well,
goes,
I mean, when you think about Alice, I mean, he was running around with icons. I mean, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, John Lennon. There's pictures of him all over the place with all these people. And so, my wife and I had dinner with him a while back, and it is weird. You're sitting there going, Cheryl and Alice, and then Leslie and myself were there, and it's kind of it's a weird thing, like, okay, that's Alice Cooper right there. It's a little weird, because, but I will tell you, he is a wonderful human being. He is an amazing person, and very intelligent, very witty, extremely funny. He always has an amazing joke. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll retell his Elvis story right now. Like my favorite story that he tells. Sorry, I had something show up on my phone. Is when he met Elvis, but I don't know. Maybe we'll move on to some other stuff. But I love that story. That's my favorite story of his, and he has some amazing ones.
Oh,
I'm sure
I've seen some even some of the talk shows he's done overseas. I mean, he talked about how the snake, he didn't realize it. He had the python or the boa constrictor, or whatever, and it like shit all over him. And he's like, I look down, it's like, what is that smell?
Right.
He's like, oh my God, I got this.
I just been shit on by a snake.
It's like, just.
Well, we played some shows where the snake actually got a little aggressive,
really?
And he would say, like, it's wrapped around his arm and started,
Constricting.
cutting off the blood supply. There's things that happened that were actually kind of moderately, I'm not going to say dangerous, but moderately dangerous.
Right. Now, when you're playing with a guy like that, and we've heard from others, for example, we had Ben Morrow, who was Lionel Richie's guitar player for
22 years.
22 years. And we said, well, how often did you interact? And he's like, not as much as you would think,
right?
But more than most.
Yeah.
Is Alice kind of one of those get in, play, get out, or did he hang around and?
Well, it definitely, it was I'm trying to describe this properly. I mean, Alice is definitely the ultimate professional. He's there to put on a great show and get out. He doesn't like being in the venue before the show. Like when we were touring, he would be on the tour bus the entire time because he felt like the opening bands and the volume and the the music and the pounding of the kick drum and all that stuff just kind of saps your energy. And I actually agree with him. Whenever I can, I am not in the venue for the opening bands. I mean, I try to stay out of the venue as much as possible. But I learned that from him. But he would stay out in the tour bus, and then he would come in, play the show, and immediately, go out into the tour bus. But we did see each other plenty. I mean, certainly, we'd see each other, on the, on the planes and on the tour bus and in the hotels and all that. But when it came to showtime, it was all business, and he was in the tour bus, came into the concert venue, played, and immediately was out.
Did you golf with him?
I'm not a golfer. I kind of wish I was, just for that reason. I'm sure we would have hung out tons if I was a golfer. But golf is one of those games that I'm just not good at it. I mean, I've tried it a few times, and it's just I think there's some things in life you either have a knack for or you don't. And golf is one of those things where I'm definitely not blessed with being able to play that game.
No. Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of golfers that would love to be able to have 4-limb independence and can play drums.
Yeah.
Well, it's a trade-off, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll take the drumming. Yeah, I'll take the drumming.
What's one of your biggest bloopers you've had?
Biggest bloopers. I've been asked that question before, and I don't really have any. Well, it wasn't my blooper. It was Kane Roberts's blooper. But we used to have these big, as far as the stage setup, they were big risers, and they had stairs and all these things. And when you're playing on an Alice set, there's all kinds of things that were on there. There's, doll heads and swords and balloons and fake blood and, just stuff everywhere. So one time Kane comes down the stairs for his solo. And this is where I learned, this is the important lesson to take away from all this, is you can literally do anything in front of a crowd of 20,000 people and get a reaction. If you follow the story, I'm going to tell you at the end how no matter what you do, you can get a reaction from 20,000 people. So Kane comes down the steps, and he said it was like a Three Stooges movie. Like he slipped on a baby head. He kind of hit a sword. Then he started slipping on fake blood. So I'm watching him, and he's spinning around. He's got his guitar, and he's just slipping and sliding. And finally, he just lands flat on his back onto the stage. And so what does he do? He just sits there, and he just puts his arms in a fist, puts his fists in the air like that. And the crowd goes nuts. I mean, it was like, wow, they just went completely crazy. And that was where I learned that you can literally do anything in front of 20,000 people and get a reaction as long as you do this.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Well, you could jump up on the next level stage and do a forward somersault like I did. Yeah. Don't know how that worked. I stood back up, and
he did.
It looked like it was timed, but Weebles do wobble.
Timed.
No, I was bleeding like a son of a bitch. I had blood running all over the stage.
Oh, you got hurt. That's always fun.
Yeah.
That's
and
always
I just
fun.
walked behind the drummer like a cat walks behind the couch, gaff taped the hell out of my knee, and then
right back at it.
Finished the song.
Yep.
And he's just going, that's the funniest thing I've ever.
That's metal. That's metal.
It is.
Or we left Jeff on a picnic table in front of 6,000 people because he wanted to be a rock star, and he jumped off a stage, went into the crowd, jumped out a picnic table, and it was too ratty for him to get down because he thought the next step that thing was going to collapse.
Ken, I got up on top of this thing, and as soon as I did, the whole thing started to do this. And I'm like, I am not moving because if I do, it's going to collapse.
And he's looking at us, and he looks at me, and he's like, I need help. And instead of ignoring it on the mic, I said, you got yourself up there, rock star. You get yourself down. He sat up there for 3 songs.
I did.
Until his wife.
Yeah, I love it. I love how like you're looking for help, and everybody's like, he's got it.
Yeah.
Until my wife came over and said, do you need help? And I said, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sure do.
We played a marina, and Jeff jumped on a guy's boat, and the guy drove away with him
with me in
playing.
it.
And he's like, I guess we're gonna figure out how far this wireless works.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm like, where the fuck is he doing?
These are you guys have great stories. Those are great
Yeah.
stories.
We should do a podcast.
I've never heard of that one before. Someone getting on a boat with a wireless and the boat
Yeah.
taking off. Like,
Yeah.
that's pure magic right there.
Yeah. The guy said
By
to
the
me,
way, how far did the wireless work?
about 3 football fields.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, you figure when there's nothing but the stage
Right.
and then the water, that shit,
Yep.
just like anything else, is going to travel. But
Yeah.
we didn't know when he was coming back. That was a very fucked up.
You
Well,
guys
we're
have had some great gigs.
Well,
We think so.
yeah, we think so.
Yeah.
People that were there didn't.
Probably not.
No, God,
Don't care.
yeah.
Ken,
No.
when did you play with Great White?
That was recently, actually, the last 3
okay.
years. And Jack Russell, as you probably know, passed in August, and we're going to be going to Los Angeles for his celebration of life service on January 14th.
Right near Nam.
Near
Yeah.
Nam, yes.
Yeah, was it a week before, I think.
I think so, and that's going to be at the Whiskey A Go Go. Yeah, that was one of the things. I had a great year. We did, so many wonderful things this year, and that was the one event that, and it was very odd. I mean, not to dwell on it, but it is weird. Like I've had other close friends pass over the last few years, and they're gone, and you kind of know they're gone, and you accept it, and you're over it. And with Jack, it was very difficult because it was hard to accept. I think mainly because he was so resilient, and no matter what his health was, he was always coming back and fighting and getting back on stage, and you just couldn't keep him down. And so when he passed, I knew in my brain that he had passed, and it took me literally like 2 months to really kind of understand and accept that he is gone. It was a very weird process.
I haven't read his book yet, but I'm about to.
Yeah, I haven't read the book, but I do know that it's from all accounts, it's really a great book. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
yeah.
When anybody that's as dynamic a person as him as he was, that
What a voice.
yeah.
I tell you what, that's the thing. I didn't realize like how great he was live until I started working with him and started going back and reviewing footage from like the 80s. I thought House of Lords was like that band. House of Lords was incredible live. One of the best live bands I've ever worked with. The singer, you could basically almost press it every night. Doug Aldridge was playing guitar. James Christian was singing. I was playing drums. Chuck Wright was playing bass. Greg Giuffria was playing keyboards. You literally could have pressed our shows and made records out of them, and it would have passed. I mean, it was the band was that good. And I never thought I'd run into a band that I felt was at that level until I watched some of the old Great White stuff. Jack was just nailing it, and even the band, like people have said, I've heard people badmouth some members of the band or whatever. And I will tell you, in their era, in their time, they played that stuff and it sounded exactly like the record. They were stellar. They were really a really amazing live band for sure.
Yeah.
I think the favorite tour that I saw Great White on was when they came to town with Tesla and Badlands at the same, and it was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's weird is I never had the opportunity to tour with them for whatever reason. I certainly toured with Tesla, and like there's so many other, Megadeth. I mean, so many of my friends that I still have to this day are from some of those tours, from the 80s. And at any rate, I never did get a chance to actually see them live. But once I started working with Jack and started watching the footage and learning, the old songs and hearing how they did them live, it was very impressive. I was extremely impressed. And I say that as a producer, my hearing is extremely good. I have a great sense of pitch. I'd know when somebody's on or not.
Mhm.
And that whole band, I mean, they were duplicating the record, just doing a fantastic
Yeah.
job of duplicating the record.
What's your feelings on so many of the 80s bands making such great music, just duplicating everything they did in the 80s now? I mean, how do I put it? The resurgence of 80s metal hair bands are just, they're touring again, and you're just like, holy shit, you got guys that you didn't think would come back out on tour. I mean,
Sure.
even guys like Graham Bonnet.
Yeah.
Graham's going to be on the show 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And
Great.
Great vocalist, iconic songs,
Mm-hmm.
and he's in his late 60s.
Gotta be.
But he's still killing it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what
Well, my thought is, I think it's great. I do think that there does come a time where you have to hang it up. And I have seen some of that too, where, you're watching a band and you're going, this just is not appropriate anymore. And it's time to go. And I do think that time does come for all of us, and I'm getting there. There's going to be a time where, I think when you can do it and you can perform and you can do what you need to do, and even if it's, I think a lot of singers, they try to duplicate what they did when they were young. I don't want to mention any names here, but some famous singers, and they try to act like, okay, I'm going to act like when I did when I was 25. And it's like, you know what, dude, you don't have to. Just stand there, sing the song and sing it great, and everything's good. It's like, I don't want to see somebody pretend like they're 25. I want to see somebody that can go there. And if you can play and you can sing and you can do your job with excellence, and you're representing those songs well, then, absolutely, God bless you. Go out there and do it, because people do enjoy it. I mean, the one thing I did notice playing with Jack and playing, getting to play these incredible songs, they had so many hits, Rock Me and House of Broken Love and Save Your Love. And, they're just, Once Bitten. There's so many great hits. And I noticed, like, when we played those shows, people were so happy, and it was really such an experience for me, because I'm usually playing metal stuff where everybody's like, that it's very aggressive, and it's a different dynamic. And then I was playing these songs where people are there really for the song, they're really to hear the song. They're not there for the aggression of it. And it was a very different experience, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, you could tell that people were just having a great time and just happy to be there and happy to be hearing the songs that they loved. And it was great to be part of that.
What is your feeling about, let's say,
are you going to do it?
Yep.
Oh no.
You've got a band that recorded for years. And all of a sudden there's one member left.
Oh.
Or no members left.
Oh, you're going there. Never mind.
I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
Probably a friend of his.
Well, he's a friend of this. Well, Mike's a friend of the show.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to say it. I mean,
right.
I think the whole situation with that band, are they considered, do they have intellectual property rights, or does the original hold on and say, hey, I recorded that song 45 years ago, and I should still be able to control everything? I mean,
well, the writers of the song still do control the song. I mean, the publishers of that material certainly control it. And for playing live, nobody can stop you from playing a song live, but you may have to pay royalties for live performance. So, for bands like you're talking about, where there's no original members, I kind of look at it like this. If it was a gradual erosion, excuse me, like, let's say, when somebody goes original member, somebody's an original member, it's like, well, what does that mean? So you were there, at this particular time on this particular album, but bands change and members change. And a lot of bands have had 1 billion members, a lot of different members over the years. So I just think if it's one of those things where the band has gradually changed members, there were members in KISS that were in Kiss longer than the original band, like Bruce Kulick
Kulick,
and Eric Singer. These are guys that they were in the band for, 20, 30 years or whatever. And, do they have legitimacy? Should they be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Yes. Do they have legitimacy? Did they help that continue that band's career? Yes. I mean, were the original members important? Yes. They established that brand and that iconic brand. So they're very important. But does that mean that nobody else can carry the torch? I think that's where it starts getting a little ridiculous. And I think if it's a gradual erosion of members and gradually people have been brought in, then I don't have a problem with it myself. Right. Like, I don't have a problem because, again, people want to hear those songs. They love hearing those songs. And if that brings them enjoyment, and if they want to pay money to go see a concert where they get to hear those songs, I'm going to be the last guy to try and stop them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, if you love that and you want to hear those songs played by, even if it's not the original band, but maybe it's guys that are amazing and can really do the songs justice. Well, who's getting hurt, I guess, is my question.
Right.
I think when the petty bullshit behind some of these things have come up, and that specific band, the gentleman that wrote the songs, a couple of them, ends up owning the rights, and he pulled them from ASCAP and BMI and said, no one's allowed to do this now. And basically putting out that band, putting them out of business. And I look at the band as, at that point, after 40 some odd years, and it's transition, this one owns the rights to, it's a business.
I don't know if you can actually do that.
You did it.
You can control the use of the name, like the name of the brand, like if somebody has the brand Journey or somebody has the brand Queensryche, you can control the brand. You can't stop somebody from playing a song. Like, you can't stop me. If I wanted to form a band right now and go out there and play Journey songs or Foreigner songs or whatever, you can't stop me from doing that. That's why you see so many tribute bands. No one can stop them from doing that. Right. So I don't know who you're referring to, actually, and I don't want you to have to say it. So don't say it.
No, don't say it.
but I was the band stopped from playing?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
What was it? Because were they stopped from playing as a specific brand?
Actually, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and then that's probably what it was. It was probably the brand, not the ownership of the songs. It was ownership of the brand. And let's say I owned the name Journey and somebody tried to go out and play as Journey. I could tell them, no, you cannot go out and you cannot use that name.
Right.
If I own the rights to that name, if I own the trademark, I own the rights. So I think what you're talking about is the brand and not the actual songs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of controversy.
See, I thought you were going in a totally different direction.
Where'd you think I was going?
I thought you were going with which is my biggest beef.
Are they considered
backing tracks?
Oh, no.
Live.
Yeah, let's talk about backing tracks.
Let's not.
I'm just kidding.
He hates them.
Fucking hate it.
Well, sometimes they're.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing I could say about backing tracks. In certain instances, and I've been actually quoted in Blabbermouth for this statement. No, well, that'd be good if this interview gets picked up by Blabbermouth. That's okay. But basically, I do think that there are circumstances where it's okay, and then other circumstances where it's not okay.
Yeah, you can't bring a piece of orchestra with you, or
right, exactly.
I get it.
And even background vocals. I mean, it just depends. I mean, and to what extent are they being used?
Right.
I mean, is it all of the background vocals? Is it a certain part of the background vocals? Is it keyboards and you can't afford a keyboard player? What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. What is it being used for? Excuse me for just a second.
You're fine. That was my, I don't want to go see somebody that's, using live lead vocals or the
well, that's a whole different story if you're talking about lead vocals. And then there is one particular band though where I'm going to almost say that's acceptable. But it's probably the band that you're angry about, so I won't say it, because there's certain bands that if the show is king, and really that's the whole thing you're going for anyway,
Yeah.
and some of what you're hearing lead vocal wise, but not all of it, is on a backing track. Do you still care?
Yeah. I'm not going for the show. I'm going to watch them.
Yeah.
You know what I
Okay,
mean?
so we're talking about a different band.
Probably, yeah.
So yeah, I'd say in some cases, if you're going and it's a musically, like it's a band that's based in music, like let's just say, for instance, Rammstein did
Yeah.
a show and the singer was sick and had laryngitis, and they've set up this city of special effects and this whole thing, and they have a stadium that's sold out, and it's not like you tell everybody in a 60,000 seat stadium to come back, in a few days. So
Right.
all that being the case, and the main thing you're there for is the show, and the guy, he's sick or whatever, and the vocals had to be piped in. Are you angry?
No.
You don't think so?
Would you rather not see the show, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, I guess. Again, though, I'm not there for the show itself.
But sometimes people,
And
I mean, like if I was going to go see Ghost, I want to see the production. If I go to Trans-Siberian Orchestra, I want to see
that to me is their
production.
So whether
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm going. If it's a band that's musical and you're there to see Deep Purple or something,
Right.
Let's just say, something that's known for the musicality, and if lead vocals are, being used for that as a quote unquote backing track, I'd have a problem with that too. I wouldn't want to see that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's
so I can agree with that. I agree with that.
Hey, I look at cover bands like Get the Let Out, who's probably the most successful Led Zeppelin tribute band that's out there, that's selling big numbers.
Yeah.
Big numbers for a cover band. God bless them.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
Whether they're a tribute band or not,
yeah,
their musicianship and the fact that they're emulating one of the greatest iconic bands around,
No, I get it.
I'll pay the $45, $50 to go see them or whatever, but I'm not going to hold it against them saying,
no,
they're using some backing tracks. No, I'm good with it because they're playing it just as freaking good as the original,
Yeah.
In some cases, better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We're not saying
it depends on which Led Zeppelin you talk about. Like I've seen footage of them in 1960 or 1970, Royal Albert Hall.
Yeah.
And it is so incredible. Like you could press that again. You could make an album out of it, and it's absolutely stunning. And Robert Plant's just nailing everything, and Jimmy Page is killing it. Yeah. And then you can see some stuff, later on where they're all drinking and into drugs, and that's not so great anymore. It's like, so, which one were you getting, and what era are we talking about? And, people don't want to hear that about their heroes. They're like, Led Zeppelin was amazing all the time. I don't know. They weren't amazing all the time. And I do remember even when I was a kid and I had friends that were older, I was always the youngest guy in the band. And I had older friends that went to see Led Zeppelin in the Kingdom. I want to say it was 78, somewhere around there. And they said it was horrible.
No shit.
Yeah, they came back. Their report was they said Robert Plant came out, sang like 2 lines, and then left for like 20 minutes, and then Jimmy Page would just jam, and then, then he'd come out and sing another few lines, and then it'd be like a guitar jam. So I don't know, maybe Robert Plant was sick or something,
right.
I don't know what was happening, but I'm just sharing with you, even your heroes, I'm sure if they did it long enough, they might have had a few shows that maybe weren't the best of shows.
I mean, he didn't pull a complete Vince Neil.
No. God.
Where's my oxygen tank? Yeah. So there's a lot of that going on. And I think the loyalty to the bands, we had it in the 80s. We didn't crush genre. We if you're a metalhead, you're a metalhead. And you may sit back and go, hey, that Wham's You know,
I,
that
I do
hash
have to inject real quick though.
Yeah.
Metalhead. When you say metalhead in the
Where
80s, I mean you were
right.
talking about Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Anthrax, Megadeth, Metallica. All of these things,
Yeah.
Flotsam and Jetsam. All of these things
yeah,
were considered
metal.
metal. Fifth
Metal.
Angel. All of these things were in the metal basket. Now you have power metal, black metal, death
Ugh.
metal, sheet metal.
Yeah.
You got all this stuff going. It's like now we have like 50 different categories, and I'm like, to me that actually hurts the genre now that we have like so
Yeah.
many categories, because now you're a power metal fan, so you're not going to like thrash metals, or you're a thrash metal fan, you're not going to like death metal, or you're not, like there's too
Yeah.
many genres now. I think that aspect of it is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
No, I agree.
you heard the difference between East Coast and West Coast back in the 80s when you had somebody like Anthrax versus Wasp,
Yeah.
or something from the West
From
Coast
that,
kind
yeah.
of stuff. It was
Yeah,
big
but it was
difference.
still all metal though.
Yeah.
Yes.
You didn't go like, oh, this is a different kind. This Iron Maiden doesn't fit with Flotsam and Jetsam. Like that didn't happen. You could like Iron Maiden and you could like Flotsam and
Right.
Jetsam. Like you didn't have to divide your attention. Go like, okay, I can only listen to this. And I think that's what happens with fans now. Like I'll talk to some fans in Europe. We do very well in Europe. And you talk to the fans. Oh, I don't like that. That's power metal. I don't listen to power metal. It's like, so fans have even kind of taken this on themselves to kind of like, I like this, but I don't like this. And I just think that just weakens music as a whole, because
Yeah.
now you're subdividing fans, and now you're making bands work a lot harder than they need to be working. Like now instead of appealing to a broad range of fans, they're appealing to a very narrow
Gotta
range
be
of fans,
lazy.
which
Yeah.
makes it difficult to tour.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But we found that back in the days of let's look at somebody like a Black Flag, Anthrax, the Ramones. Those fans didn't usually cross pollinate. And if you saw a hairband guy at a Black Flag concert, somebody's going to get in a fight. They weren't very accepting of each other. So they kind of segregated themselves back then even.
Well, I'm not sure. First of all, the term hair band that showed up in the grunge era when everybody was like mocking and making fun of.
Yes.
And this is the funny thing that I think about in the grunge era, which there were some fine bands. Alice in Chains I thought was killer.
Yes.
Soundgarden I thought was killer.
Yep.
Nirvana had some amazing songs. I don't think they had a lot of amazing records, but I think they had some amazing songs. And so it was an interesting era. It lasted like 2 or 3 years,
Right.
and all those guys are pretty much gone. But the term hair metal and butt rock and all that stuff was basically those bands mocking, all the bands. Like I even saw one of the guys, and I'm not going to mention who, but one of the guys in one of those bands mocking Megadeth and Metallica, and you're just going like, I've never had it in my being to look at somebody else's art and make, and mock it, like it was mocked so,
Right.
viciously during that era. So all that to say, that was a very short-lived era. They were mocking bands like Iron Maiden and Kiss and Aerosmith. And what's hilarious is, those bands were long gone, and playing stadiums was Iron Maiden and Kiss and
Yeah.
Aerosmith and
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the bands that they made fun of
Still.
were out there playing stadiums again. So,
Yeah.
so great music is great music. I really don't like the term hair band or hair metal. I think it's a BS term.
Yes.
I'd like it to be wiped off the face of the earth. It's something that showed up in that era, and that era, I think there's only 2 times in music history. One of them was disco in the late 70s, where I don't know if you remember, but and I was extremely young, but they were burning disco records. They were saying disco sucks. They were having BG free weekends on the radio.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like you saw this huge backlash. The only 2 times in music history you ever saw that was that era and when grunge music took over. And that's the only time you saw that.
Yeah.
No, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and get off my soapbox now.
It's a great
But
soapbox.
I do think it was very disingenuous. I don't want to say which band, but there's one guy that I remember watching interviews, and he's like, "Yeah, we don't really want to be famous." And I was like, "Well, you don't want to be famous, but you're touring and putting out records and making videos. It's like you don't want to be famous. Stop putting out records, stop touring, and stop doing videos. I promise you, you're going to be unfamous." Faster than you can ever imagine. You're going to be unfamous in like a month.
Right.
So, so I just thought it was the most disingenuous,
Definitely.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Ken,
that's how they wanted to be famous.
Yeah.
I'm known for not wanting to be known.
Yeah.
You're full of shit. You're full of shit. Then give me all your money.
Yeah.
Go live under a bridge. And
yeah, you can be unknown very fast. So
yeah.
Nowadays, everything gets canceled.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, it's great talking to you guys. And
yes,
thank you so much.
I'm going to have to actually go get some food before I pass out.
Well, yeah, I have a reservoir here, so I can rest. No, Ken, I
honestly, I mean,
can't thank you enough for doing it. We're going
hanging out. No,
we're actually going to split this up. We're going to make this its own episode. So,
is it? Does it need to go longer or something? Can you?
No,
No,
not at all.
You're perfect. Actually,
yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, we're going to make this.
Truly appreciate you sticking around.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure talking to you.
Anything you want to promote that you're doing in the next 30 days?
Well, I am doing a tribute to one of my heroes, which is Rush. Fortunately, again, I'll just point out that I did do a record with Terry Brown, and he actually makes a quote about me in like some of the literature I have. But anyway, I am doing a tribute to Neil, and it actually started. I won't call it a tribute. I will call it a challenge. A friend of mine, obviously I'm a session drummer, and a friend of mine who is also a drummer from Seattle, I might add, challenged me. He said, well, could you remove the drums from a Rush song and could you play it and make it sound as close to the record as possible? Get the fills nailed, get the tones as close as you can using modern equipment to what they did in the past. But here's the catch. You have to do it with no punching in, with no editing of any kind, and with no samples. And you have to do it. Did I already say all in one pass? So basically all in one take, and you have to lock to their tracks, which they didn't play to a click. So it moves, it surges or delays.
Yeah.
I mean, I could tell you specific punches now where, they were a little late or a little early or whatever, because, having to play the songs. So anyway, that was his challenge to me. How close can you get? And so I'm releasing 3 songs. I might do a 4th. I'll have to see if there's actually interest in it. But the weird thing is I've done this project. I call it the Neil Peart Experiment. And I'm trying to get as close as I can to the original recording and kind of the way they had to do it, all one pass. Right. The difference is usually in that day, the drums would go down first and then the guitars and the bass and the keyboards and the vocals. I'm having to lock to the tracks that are there. So it was a very difficult process. I mean, it really was challenging as a studio drummer.
Sure.
It was a challenge, let me tell you, to try to get that as close as possible. So I'm posting what that looks like, and it's going to be on my channel, my YouTube channel, which is Ken K. Mary Official. And there's one song posted now, which is YYZ. You can go there and check it out. And then I'm going to post 2 more, possibly 3 more, depending on if there's interest. The challenge with this challenge, to be funny about it, the challenge with the challenge is, when people see the recording of it, they just go, oh, he's playing the song. How nice. Like they don't understand the process. If you're not a studio musician or you haven't been in the studio, you might not understand the difficulty level. It just looks like, hey, here's some guy playing the song again. What's the point of this? And a lot of people, like some of the people have posted, what's the point of this? I don't get it. Like you explained it, but I don't really get it. And I think that's kind of the challenge of this challenge, is the fact that, do people get it? Do they understand it? It's kind of a weird concept. And now looking back, I'm going, yeah, if you've been in the studio or you're a session musician, then you understand it. And if you haven't been, you might not get it.
Yeah, but if you're a drummer, that typically you and your bass player are laying the pocket down and everyone's following.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're the engine.
Yes.
And now the engine is not you.
Right.
You're just the wheels following what's going on in front of you, and you have to make it
Work.
seem like you're driving the bus, but you're not.
Right.
But you're not. Exactly.
Right. So
Yeah.
that,
Exactly.
to me, I think that's brilliant. I think it's brilliant, but I think it's just because I was a drummer for so long, and being a singer and I was the hardest on drummers because I knew how in my head, I can play the song in my head without, because that's all we listened to when we learned covers years ago. I was just listening to the drum part. I couldn't tell you the lyrics. I couldn't tell you the guitar.
Right.
I knew, kick, and we have our own
Yeah.
language. So to do that, I think that's freaking cool.
Well, that's great. That's great that you get it. I mean, there have been people that are, I've gotten some hate, like, what is this? Why are you doing this? What's the purpose? And you try and explain it, and hopefully I've explained it about as good as you can. But I do understand that people that don't have any studio experience, or they're not a drummer, or they don't understand how the studio system, how the process works, they might look at it and go like, yeah, so what? So he's playing a song, big deal. And I guess I've had enough of that to where I'm going, in hindsight, I'm going, yeah, maybe not the best idea for a project.
Yeah, but you know what? The people that do get it, that's the ones you want.
Yeah.
That's who's going to listen to it. And
well, I think it's interesting. And my friend, when he said that to me, I was like, man, that sounds like a cool, that's a cool challenge, And anybody that thinks it's easy, I'd like them to go ahead and try it.
Yeah, exactly.
I will send them the tracks, and they can do that. And I can prove, because I have GoPro cameras with all, everything's all, because I have 5 cameras. So you see change in the editing. But I have the single camera footage where you can see the whole song from start to finish. It sounds like crap because it's the GoPro camera, but you can hear nothing's been edited, nothing's been changed. And anybody that wants to do it, my hat's off to them, because it was much harder than I anticipated to try to really make it sound like the record, to where, like, hopefully if you slipped it in to somebody's playlist, they wouldn't be able to tell the difference maybe. And my friend Brad, who's a drummer, he was there in the editing thing, and he closed his eyes and he goes, yeah, dude, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell. And that was a huge compliment, because that's what we were trying to do. But anyway, all that to say, I hope people get it. But I'm suspecting it's a little maybe complex. I don't know. It's maybe it was a stupid idea. I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, man.
Ken, you're doing a musical version of someone that is trying to make a meat dish out of vegan ingredients. Okay.
Right, yeah.
And if it tastes like
I like that.
if it tastes like
that?
it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll use that.
People are like, what? It's fucking beef shawarma. It's like, no. It's a mushroom. And they're like, what? Then why would you do that? Because there's a need for it. So I think what you're doing is awesome.
Absolutely.
You should be complimented for it, and I can't wait to hear it. And please, send us a link to it. And
I will.
Yeah,
I will absolutely do that.
Cool.
Yeah. This was awesome. It was an added bonus today. We
very much
appreciate it. Hopefully, I don't know if you're going to be out in California during the NAMM show or not, but I will be out there, and hopefully we can meet up and have a cup of coffee or something.
That'd be awesome. I look forward to it.
Very good.
Awesome.
Doko, we're gonna do that thing again.
Okay.
And then once we stop recording here, I want to get back to you, and I'll get your information so we can send you some stuff.
Sure.
All right. We're going to do this again now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay. Today, genius.
Shut up.
Hey, there it is.
Yeah. You've been listening to Good,
The band.
The Ugly again.
Yes.
I'm Big Papa.
I'm Jeff, and that's Ken Mary.
That's Ken Mary. And wow, what an added bonus.
That was a
Holy
treat,
shit.
dude. That was awesome.
We want to thank our sponsors, as always. Ultimate Ears. Shit, we almost forgot that one.
Did
Ultimate Ears. You can hear your own tears
with Ultimate Ears.
Ultimate Ears. Don't forget the DJ Lights and Beach,
Sharky's Event Center,
Uncle Jimmy's Local Live Music,
the Print Shop Underground,
and Black Heart
Tattoo.
Tattoo.
That one.
That's right. And all our friends at Harley Davidson,
Yeah.
send me some free shit.
And Hogwash.
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 I don't need him until the spring.
Okay.
Anyways, as we always say,
Be kind to each other.
don't be a dick. Peace. We'll see you soon with you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
All right. We're out.
Cool.